All right, everyone, we should be live. Let's make sure that's actually the case over on Rumble. By the way, we did add the Biden documents story. Now we're going to cover that in brief, although it's not actually a link in the description. I will be talking about that. I do see that chat is working over on Rumble. Mike White 81, Mike White, Black Clank, Slayer the Gamer, Clank, Sakura at Midnight, get you morning coffee and clank on y'all. And Bana Layman, good morning and clank. Many such cases of clanking. The clank is spreading across the globe. That's what I like to see. By the way, hundreds of copies of Orange Man Big have now sold. So if you haven't yet gotten a copy of that, I'm going to pop that in chat for everyone. It is still trending at #1 in humorous erotica on Amazon. So I'm very proud about that. We're going to put that in chat really quick before we begin and make sure that we're live on Rumble. Bunch of ratings on it too. Remember, if you do get a copy of Orange Man Big, which I have just linked in chat, it is helpful if you give it a rating and or a review. It's worth many, many sales if a person does that because it bumps it up in all the lists permanently, and that's what everyone needs. So anyway, we'll make sure that we're live here. Are we live? Myself? Oh, we're live. Okay, we're live over on Rumble. People telling me that I'm live. I can see it for myself. We've got a lot to talk about. First, we'll hop right into this news story here. House leak tries to pin Biden classified docs on ex-aide Kathy Chung. Washington, a leaked passage from a closed-door testimony to the White House. To the House Oversight Committee cast Kathy Chung, a former aide to President Biden who helped pack up his vice presidential office, as responsible for not checking to make sure classified documents weren't taken. This despite the fact that they have headers on them that clearly mark them as classified/secret. Republicans have expressed concern for months that Democrats would throw Chung under the bus to get Biden out of legal trouble, as special counsel Robert Hur reviews whether the president or anyone in his orbit broke the law. This is the fall person, so I'll put it that way. Biden is not going to get in trouble for breaking the law, even though he did. He did not have declassification powers at the time that he took many of these documents, including some from his time as a senator. Unlike Donald Trump at the Mar-a-Lago, he was raided by the FBI and by others, despite the fact that he had unilateral abilities to declassify whatever the fuck he wanted. Joe Biden did not have those powers, and therein lies the difference, and that's why this story will effectively not be covered by much of the legacy media. So, you can piss into the wind if you want to, but it's actually, while it should be a big deal, well, it should be a national scandal, actually. It won't be treated like one. It'll be treated like a nothing burger. And meanwhile, nothing burgers are treated as national scandals. We've got a 180 view of reality right now. When you look at like CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, they're giving people the opposite of the truth. But they've been doing that for many years. It's not exactly a new thing. So that's my belief with regards to the Biden classified documents super scandal. It will lead to nothing, unfortunately. You're better off going for Hunter Biden and the whistleblower there, claiming that there was actually an international business deal between then VP Biden, brokered by Hunter, of course, and foreign entities. That is more meaningful. It's being looked into literally right now by House Republicans. That may actually lead somewhere. We're going to be skeptical because typically these investigations don't lead anywhere. They get stonewalled. They're partisan bullshit. But there's actually a possibility there. Unfortunately, there's not a possibility that Biden will get in trouble for illegally harvesting classified material and probably showing them to foreign entities in order to get money, which is what Biden did and what Trump has claimed to have done, but clearly did not. Texas P12. Did you read the DMs I sent you about the Oregon laws that passed? I did see them, yes. I will look into that more, by the way, over the coming days. Right now, I'm a little bit low energy right now because we actually had a scheduled appointment for our daughter not long ago, and so I'm going a little bit late, and then I've got to cook. I'm making tacos tonight, and I make them the authentic way. No, tacos are not a health food. Get off my ass. Pigar, when can we get a tour of the sea shed? Never. The cuck shed itself is a fucking mess. It's used as a repository for all the bullshit that doesn't have a place in the house, basically. So you just see the entryway. We will eventually move to a larger place, hopefully with a larger cuck shed. That'd be fun. Midwest Finest, morning. Have you seen Trump's address about colleges? If so, thoughts? I have not seen that yet, no. Scott Christie Jones, community note on Chelsea Clinton. You're welcome. Oh, you did that? Oh, good job. I think I rated that one helpful. X, what's the path to actually defeat the deep state? You will never fully defeat the authoritarian tendencies of tyranny. It's an eternal struggle, an eternal camp, if you will, against tyranny. That being said, in this round, if you want to defeat them, you have to try to self-improve, deprive them of the ability to force you to ever be reliant on the government, do things locally, do it in your community, in your family, etc., and do what you can to self-improve. Make yourself more resistant to tyranny. 487 Sean Tower would like you to watch YouTube video, Black Schools Are Hiding This, the White Slave Trade of Africa. It shows the extent and degree of brutality of the treatment of millions of white slaves. I think I may have actually seen part of that. If that's not a recent thing, I probably saw part of that, actually. I'm aware of the white slave trade in parts of Africa, though. King of Biltong, good morning from Antons in Roanoke, Texas. Hashtag Clank Nation. More and more Biltong money keeps building up. You know, you better stock up more for when I arrive, because all that money is going to go right back into your Biltong store, and I'm going to get too fat to move, so you're going to have to hire a forklift, my dude. Nick Ray, 47 on Rumble. What did Trump do regarding Ron V. DeSantis that you disagreed with? Ron V. DeSantis? Do you mean Ron DeSantis v. Disney? I disagree with Donald Trump with regards to that, because I think that Disney should lose its company town status. I do disagree with that. I agree with Ron DeSantis and his fans on that, because no monopolistic sort of company town should ever exist in the first place. There shouldn't be some special zone with special laws and special deregulation. What you should do is deregulate everything evenly. If you want to do that for Disney, as Florida has done for many decades, do that for every business in Florida. Do it even-handedly and in a vacuum. If Disney is something that people want to see, it will succeed. And if it doesn't, it will fail. It's not, basically, they treat Disney World as too big to fail. That's the problem. And a follow-up, I meant Ron v. Disney. Oh, okay, yeah, I addressed the question. That's my thoughts. Applied Force, any possibility of you releasing self-voiced audiobooks? I could, but it would take a lot of effort. And I don't know, maybe. I guess for Orange Man Big, I could maybe do an audiobook. But for the most part, I like paperbacks and reluctantly release digital copies for the plurality of people that for some reason prefer ebooks. I will never understand that. Unless it's a PDF scan of an original document, then I can work with it. Torchwood Gal. Cheers from Clank Nation in Nashville, Tennessee. Next news story. What we know about the murky drone attack on the Kremlin and the questions that remain. I would like to point this out. I'm reiterating what I said this morning with the Kremlin drone attack. We know basically nothing. We know that there were a couple of drones that attacked the Kremlin. We don't know who launched them. We don't know what the purpose was for launching them. Everything else is entirely speculative. Nonetheless, and this was the point of my morning video, nonetheless, you get a bunch of people from the legacy media, from political circles, even content creators, some of which know better, pretending that they know for certain who done it. So some people say, like, for certain, well, it was clearly the Ukrainians were trying to shock the Russians by attacking the Kremlin, thus showing that they're capable of doing so. Even though this attack didn't do anything, it didn't do any real damage, it didn't kill anyone, they're showing they can get a drone into Russia, close enough to Moscow, to attack the capital itself. Okay, that's a plausible theory. There are other people that are claiming some sort of inside knowledge or gnosis that it was Vladimir Putin that did this. Well, no. He's framing the Ukrainians. This is basically a false flag. What I see is a fog of war situation in which none of these people know what the fuck they're talking about. None of them know for certain. Effectively, the only people that know for sure are the people that launched it and the other people that are on the other side that know that they did not launch it. The problem is in the fog of war with the propaganda that we have right now with media in the East and West that is entirely sympathetic to one party or the other, we're not getting any straight reporting. This is why I don't pay attention to the legacy media in the East either, because they do the same thing. If I look at Xinhua, RT, etc., they're playing the same game that CNN or fucking BBC play. It's the same fucking bullshit. It's a different asshole. And so there is no obvious conclusion with regards to these strikes. Now, what remains to be seen is the pragmatic change, potentially, in the war effort there. Now, if Ukraine did it, it's clearly to send a message to Russia, hey, we can hit you in the middle of Moscow. You're not the only ones that are capable of force projection. That would be significant. Again, a good theory. The possibility also is there that Russia launched the strikes on its own Kremlin as a sort of Reichstag fire moment in order to justify its invasion of Ukraine. Hey, the Ukrainians have attacked us on our own soil, so everyone fall in line like, fucking, it's getting real. We need to stay there. Clearly, we need to get rid of Zelensky. It doesn't really matter, though. In either case, there was an attack. We know that. Both sides admit to it. Western media was there, too. They got the recording. So we know that. Beyond that, we know absolutely nothing. And so, but people are still using it as a chance to push whatever diplomatic message they have. And that was predictable. I don't count that as a successful Styx prediction because it was so self-evident that it would happen that any reasonable person understood that that would be the case. So, Brandon Fairbanks, all this green energy push that we're doing is peanuts. Until we can figure out how to harvest energy from space, all the rest is meaningless. Not meaningless, but less meaningful, I would say. Mr. Pockets, we're having a family taco dinner at my sister's this weekend, and I'm making fried plantains. Have you had them? Yes, I've made them several times. Also, I think it's funny how someone who tried to beef with you is begging for views now. Who? I don't know. Everyone has a beef with me because I tell the truth. And so if they're not truthy people, they have a problem with me usually. This includes some people on the right as well. It's not just leftoids. Are done. A little bit of cash to celebrate. A while ago, you made a video saying the best way was to self-improve. Lost 50 pounds and working 10K steps a day. Thanks. Good job. That's what I'm talking about. See, now, if shit hits the fan, you're more survivable. It's more likely that clankers will survive if they take that advice. Maybe losing weight. Some of you, hell, you might have anorexia. Try to get over it and gain a little bit of weight. Gain a little bit of muscle mass if you want to and learn a new skill. That's all you have to do. It's not that difficult. People get all black-pilled and demoralized and think that the man will keep them down. No, you got to lift yourself up. Nobody else can do it for you. Gerald Armstrong. I wouldn't be surprised if it was the Z-Man. Didn't he get stopped from attacking Moscow by the U.S. a little while ago? I don't recall that particular incident, but it wouldn't surprise me. The Grizzly. After reading Matt Walsh's insane take about Mitt Romney being a cabinet member, I did see that, for Trump, and that video games are evil and satanic, like it's 1983. I have to ask, why are conservatives, even younger ones, so out of touch? Don't confuse Matt Walsh with the average populistic side conservative. I believe he's more on the neocon end. Yeah, he went full retard on video games. They are satanic. I think he said yoga was satanic too, or something like that. And it's like, all right, at this point, you're just grifting. You're just trying to get attention. Again, many such cases. Adam THM on Rumble. Styx, do you think the leftists are protecting Disney so hard because they are still coping over JK having views? Oh, JK Rowling having views they don't like. Are they afraid to lose Disney? No, I think it's more because Ron DeSantis bad, because Ron DeSantis endorsed by Orange Man and Orange Man bad. It really is that simplistic and reductionist in their case. Next news story. Montana judge rejects effort by transgender lawmaker Zooey Zephyr to return to the state house floor. Zephyr censured after comments about Republican support for banning gender surgery for kids. Well, that is half true. And to be clear, this is Fox. They've become full-on legacy media as well. It wasn't really about that. It was about a breach of decorum. It was about there's a protest going on, and you decided to help disrupt proceedings by giving your microphone effectively over to the protesters, which at that time were not lawfully assembled. They were disrupting official taxpayer-funded proceedings that most people wanted to go on. It was about that in a roundabout way. Here's the thing. Zephyr now is still capable of delivering a vote, just not capable of taking the floor because this individual has decided to show that he, she, it, whatever, I don't even give a fuck, is not capable of actually being on their congressional floor and acting with some degree of decorum. Now, decorum is important if you're going to have a governing body at all, because you can't simply have somebody showing up and using the fucking heckler's veto and do literally fucking anything. The taxpayers do not want to fund an Animal House situation where everyone is simply rambling at each other and throwing their feces at each other and jumping around and throwing chairs. That's the sort of thing that happens in the Balkan states, literally in some cases. So the reject of this lawsuit is good. And so Zephyr will continue to be off the House floor for the foreseeable future. It was basically a stink suit anyway. There is no reason why a judge would get involved, a reasonable judge, in legislative proceedings. It would literally breach the separation of powers. And so, I'm glad to see this. And of course, there's some pouting going on Twitter. Well, the legislature there is mean. They just kicked Zooey Zephyr out for being transgendered. No, it has nothing to do with any actual action, only to do with identity. And here's the thing. Zephyr has learned something that a lot of other leftoids have learned, that sometimes you can act out, do something that may even be illegal, and shield yourself from any form of punishment or scrutiny by simply saying, hey, look at the color of my skin. Hey, look at my genitals. Hey, look at some other identity that I have, and therefore you can't punish me. If you punish me, a lynch mob will show up and they will protest. And so they're more reluctant to do so. This is what Zooey Zephyr and others have realized and got punished for their actions. And good. That's the exact thing that should happen. I like this. The only thing I will say is, this is their words, if you vote yes on this bill and yes on these amendments, I hope the next time there's an invocation when you bow your heads in prayer, you see the blood on your hands, Zephyr said when debating SB 99. Critics demanded an apology. However, after refusing to do so, Republicans led the chamber in a 68-32 vote last week, so it wasn't close. Not entirely partisan, I think, either. To bar Zephyr from accessing the House floor, Zephyr cannot enter the anteroom or gallery, but can vote remotely, so you can still do your job. I like this, how this self-righteous, pompous asshat claims that, oh, you're not able to do my job my constituents expect me to do. Yes, you can. You just have to play by the rules like literally every goddamn buddy else in the fucking house there in Montana does in order to do your job on the actual floor. If you're too petulant and too fucking retarded to do that, you will be removed and put in timeout. You'll still be able to cast your vote because your constituents are as dumb as you are. Be able to vote, but you won't be able to sit there and browbeat other people and say crazy shit to them. It's as simple as that. Everybody wins. Don't worry, you can still vote. You just need a timeout with your binky, your nappy, your comfy banky. And that's basically the average leftoid in a nutshell. Doubt Shadow, holla at Phil Bowman in Buffalo, easing himself into a pepper mill and mining leftist salt. In terms of engendering spiciness, he's a seasoned vet. Let's see, just a second here. Something's going on. Okay, it's fine. I thought that Rumble chat was acting up there for a second. Next news story. Speaker McCarthy is risking the American economy for a MAGA wish list. Yes, we have more fear-mongering with regards to the debt ceiling and Kevin McCarthy putting forth the budget. I recall a few weeks ago, the concern about Kevin McCarthy was that the Republicans didn't have a budget. They're stalling on Biden's budget. They don't want to vote yes, and so they're strangulating the economy. They don't even have their own plan. The second that they release a plan, even though 90% of the fucking proposals are exactly the same as Biden's budget, oh, now they're playing with fire. They're trying to hold the economy hostage and collapse it. Dude, the economy is already collapsing. As I pointed out in the New Tech exclusive today, the latest banking failures all but seal the deal of us entering another great recession. We'll be really, really lucky if it's kind of sort of V-shaped and only lasts for 3 or 4 quarters. We'll be very, very lucky if the damage is constrained that much. I am very skeptical about the Biden admin's capability of doing that. In fact, the debt ceiling debate is coincidentally and happily for the Democrats happening at the same time that fallout may occur at any given moment. The delay on it probably is further than that, but we're not 100% sure. We have a historical precedent for the bottom dropping down out from under us at this point. We don't know exactly how long that'll take. It could be quicker than before. with the Great Recession, because the amount of assets lost is already massively higher. So it could be, I don't know, it could be 6 months, could be 12. We'll wait and see. As far as this fear mongering goes, though, if you were to shut down the government, I mean, who cares? Who gives a damn? So some federal workers get furloughed. They get their back pay later on, although they don't really deserve it. What you should be doing, of course, is picking away at the bureaus and getting rid of them all. Most of them don't deserve to exist. Those that do deserve and need to exist don't deserve their budgets or their scope or their size. Then we've got the Chevron deference under fire from SCOTUS at the same time. So the left is having some cultural war issues. It's funny. On the culture war side itself, writ large, the left keeps making inroads. But on the legal fallout side of it, especially at the judicial level, they keep fucking losing. With Bruin, probably with the Chevron decision, et cetera, with Roe v. Wade, actually, et cetera, et cetera. And so it's funny to watch the differential between the actual civic system, which is pushing back against the left, and the cultural system, which is effectively a bunch of people that don't agree with the far left, but don't want to combat them because they might be seen as unwoke. They might lose their jobs for saying the wrong thing. They might say the N-word or something like that, and that would be a big problem. All of a sudden, they lose their middle management consultant position. Spider Eternal, I'm demoralized, was dumped, and she's getting married in a few months later. Almost 40. This sucks. My strawberries are growing great, though. Cheers. Focus on the strawberries, then. Learn how to grow more crops. I'll tell you what. You want a woman. Learn how to grow flowers. That way you can always have a bouquet, and it's fresh, and you grew it through your own effort. Learn how to grow flowers, my dude. Trust me. Wildin, I'm working on self-improving. Just passed my cybersecurity certification exam, signing up for another in the week, and teaching myself to code. You're learning how to code. Maybe you can take on a couple of poor BuzzFeed writers as employees. Good job, though. With people, you'll end up hiring half of Salon maybe in the future. Emperor Helix. By the way, I like thinking about the possibility that someone breaks through the black pilled barrier and starts self-improving because they saw one of my videos, and then they end up becoming like the next Elon Musk or something. Just remember me when you're at the top. Emperor Helix. No one is talking about the Russian pranksters pretending to be Zelensky duping Fed Chair Powell into admitting that a recession is likely. That's because everyone knows that a recession is likely, not because it's not funny. I did see that, by the way, and I think, isn't that the same pranksters that have pranked dozens of other officials? I don't know how they keep doing it. Shows there are national security problems in the Western world, maybe. Cunning Tube, Clank from the Vermont-New York border. Really enjoying Orange Man Big. Will you be writing more books in this style? I actually last night did think of the possibility of a volume 2. It's getting good reception. People think it's funny. I had fun writing it, and it's not difficult for me to write that kind of material because it's entertaining. Yeah, maybe there's a volume 2 in me. We'll see what happens. But I got so much other goddamn literary work to do. It's like, holy shit. Apparently, I need to take up a meth habit in order to keep up with all the work that I've got to do. Next news story. Accused Texas illegal immigrant Mexican gunman Francisco Oropesa reportedly had a death cult shrine. This is weird fucking news. I'm going to read some of this verbatim. The illegal immigrant from Mexico, who allegedly gunned down 5 of his Texas neighbors, reportedly had a death cult shrine in his bedroom, where candles were still seen burning 2 days after the massacre. Those are some long-ass candles, by the way. A law enforcement source who saw the scene told the Center for Immigration Studies that Francisco Oropesa's elaborate shrine honored the Santa Muerte death cult. The shrine of Nuestra Senora de la Santa Muerte, as she is formally called, included several statues of patron saints, a stack of $2 bills. Those are fun to collect, by the way. I still got some back in Rutland. Flowers and tinfoil filled with an apparent drug, ostensibly offerings to protect the accused killer. 2 tall candles were still burning Monday, 2 days after Oropesa, 38, allegedly used an AR-15 style rifle. So what rifle was it? Is it an AR-15 or does it just look kind of similar? We'll find out in 10 years from now, maybe. To kill 5 neighbors when he was asked to stop firing the weapon in his Cleveland, Texas yard. Yeah, Cleveland sucks even when you're even down there. Cleveland, Ohio sucks big dick. And then if you go to Texas to Cleveland, that sucks too, apparently. The Mexican national, who has reportedly been deported 4 times, was captured Tuesday night while hiding underneath laundry in a home in the Texas city of Conroe after authorities received a tip on the whereabouts. The following of Santa Muerte, the personification of death, began in Mexico during the mid-20th century, and its devotees have grown in number in the last 20 years or so. Sounds a little bit like the Thuggee cult or something with Kali. It gained popularity among drug trafficking cartel syndicates, which could have something to do with these killings, and also the criminal underworld in general, with adherents believing the prayers and offerings provide them with protection from the law. Interesting. So we have somebody who is praying to the saint of death to protect themselves from the law. Do you think they may have already been a criminal, and that this, other than illegal border crossing, that there might have been something else going on? Drugs on the altar. I wonder what they were selling in order to make their living as an illegal immigrant who can't find normal work. Yeah, this will go over really well for Joe Biden. No wonder they're focusing on the kind of weapon used. Many such cases. Attila Hung, what do you think about PepeCoin? Meme coin season? Haven't heard of it, so I have no thoughts about it. I'm just going to hold Bitcoin and a few others. Salt A. Good morning, Sticks. I propose the Bud Light Awards for those who abandon their principles. Nominees include Fox, Rhinos, The Fed, Vice, DeSantis, and Budweiser. I'm going to go with Fox over Budweiser, actually. Fox has abandoned what little principle they had, and I got years and years of shit for pointing out they were just part of the legacy media. People kept coping by saying Tucker Carlson saved them. Well, he's gone now, not without good reason. He's not a unipartyist completely, and so he didn't get along well with his taskmasters. Mungi, the argument I've heard before is yoga is satanic because of the spiritual element. Walsh is about as authoritarian as a conservative can be. Yeah, doing stretches is now a form of devil worship, I guess. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Don't even look into Tai Chi. Alex Demon, Oregon is set to wholly ban all firearms with 5 different bills while state Republicans back it. To be honest, seems as if attempting to bankrupt gun lobbyists. Well, they will probably lose because of the Bruin decision. There are federal level anti-gun control groups that will step in. Kaz and Simon, not to dent the mood, what is the best way to overcome low mood after losing a loved one? I currently try to keep fit and busy. Keeping busy is what I tend to do. That's the way that I deal with grief. When my grandfather died, at first I was really cut up about it. I'm like, okay, I can't do this right now. And I made a video saying, I'll be back when I can. Within a couple of days, I was back because I realized that helps distract me from grief. People have different ways of dealing with stress. I became a workaholic. It works, by the way. You make more money that way. David Akiva, what are your thoughts on no primary debates? I think it's sad because it would be fun to see them. On both parties, by the way. I would wish that, strategically speaking, I understand why Trump's not going to go to any debates with the also rans. But it would be funny to see him beating on them. It would be funny to see him humiliate Asa Hutchinson. It would be funny to see him humiliate Nikki Haley on foreign policy. I wish we could see that. We'll have to wait till the general. And, of course, the Dems are going to do everything that they can to try to screw with the general election debates as well. It won't be Trump doing that. He will be geared up and ready to go against somebody like Joe Biden because he's, intellectually crippled. He's demented. Joe Biden will probably try to manufacture some reason to stay home. Lazupan, if you haven't already, buckle up. It will be good for investors, but it appears more than half of U.S. banks are already insolvent, according to some sources. Yeah, what happened during the Great Recession is a few large banks collapsed, and then you have a waiting period, and then a bunch of smaller and regional banks start going belly up. At some point, it becomes difficult to reabsorb the assets. We've already seen the reabsorption of more assets than from before the Great Recession, and that's just the foreshock period. It's going to get bad. Yeah, it'll be great for investors. They'll do fine as long as they maneuver properly, and they can always get a bailout. You can't. Next news story. New York becomes the first state to ban natural gas stoves and furnaces in most new buildings now. This is really, really interesting. I seem to recall, who was it? Chuck Schumer and AOC and Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and basically the other usual gang of idiots, Maxine Waters and all of these other morons. I seem to recall them not that many months ago. In fact, it was this year. It was literally this early spring, saying that there was no war on gas stoves. In fact, I made a tweet earlier comparing what Chuck Schumer said back in February to this story. I was told there was no war on gas ovens, no war on natural gas. We're looking into climate shit. And the Republicans are fear-mongering. Nobody's coming for your gas stove. Nobody's trying to keep you from cooking with gas, which some people consider to be superior to using other forms of stoves. And there are positives, and the negative would be safety in my case. I don't like the idea of an open flame on the stove in front of me. I don't like the idea of a highly combustible gas that could potentially leak being in my home. I would prefer, a more modern oven style. So I don't really care about this myself, but people should be able to cook with coal if they want to. You want to cook with a wood stove? That's fine. You have a wood stove heating your home, which isn't even allowed in some states, I think. And then you have a hot plate on top of it, and you cook your porridge or whatever. It's fine. But I was told by these people that gas stoves weren't going to be banned. Nobody cared about them. And it was all fear. It was hyperbole. But then New York State literally just moved to do exactly that. This is passed. New York is the first state in the country to ban natural gas and other fossil fuels in most buildings. So no more oil heating either. A major win for climate advocates, but a move that could spark pushback from fossil fuel interests. So sensible people who understand basic economics and energy policy. Facing mounting pressure from environmental advocates and climate-minded voters, in other words, retards, Governor Kathy Hochul and Democratic lawmakers who control the New York Senate and Assembly approved the new $229 billion state budget containing the provision late Tuesday night. It bans gas-powered stoves, furnaces, and propane heating, and effectively encourages the use of climate-friendly appliances such as heat pumps and induction stoves, nothing wrong with induction, in most new residential buildings across the state. It requires all-electric heating and cooking in new buildings shorter than 7 stories by 2026 and for taller buildings by 2029. Now, because of pushback on this could end up getting downed before it fully takes effect. It's not impossible. Lee Zeldin just showed us last year that it is possible for a Republican, for example, to make significant inroads in New York. New York is not a homogenous state. If the people there that disagree with these leftoid policies really turned out at significantly higher levels, New York could become a swing state, effectively. The problem is that is difficult to actually accomplish, so it's not likely. Enjoy New York. Now, this is what you voted for. You decided to vote for Hochul and her host of morons there, and so now you're going to reap what you sow. Sort of like the people that voted for Biden. And they're like, I wonder why the economy's bad. I wonder, why are things so terrible right now? Well, because you decided to vote. And other people that were long dead also voted. Honk, honk. Salte! I am a New Yorker, and the plan for New York State to ban gas stoves is a ploy between the state and state-run electric companies to consolidate their pockets. Yeah, I mean, where are the liberals to whine about corporate monopolies? Because basically that's what it comes from. It has nothing to do with climate change, which in the anthropogenic sense doesn't even really exist. It wouldn't solve anything anyway. Okay, you still got a stove. What do you think is creating the electricity? Do you think it's a bunch of fucking windmills, or do you think it's mainly oil and gas and sometimes nuclear when you're allowed to use it? Oh, that's where it's from. By the way, what brings forth that nuclear ore and refines it out of the earth? It's fossil fuel. It's entirely fossil fuel. 50-ton fucking dump truck. Yeah, it's clearly it's solar powered. That makes a lot of sense. Romatom. Where is Gonzalo Lira? He was last active in 30th of April. Last time he was gone, this long gone, he was arrested by the Ukrainian authorities. Interesting. I don't know. Next news story. By the way, we'll keep it a little bit on the short side today because, again, I'm a little bit played out. I've had a little bit of a long-suffering week already. A lot of shit to do. Fun, but, you help me have so much energy. And I do a lot of editing. How Bidenomics has finally defeated Reaganomics. Now, this is by the Daily Beast, so we're going to label this propaganda. Bidenomics will die, and I'll tell you why. Bidenomics is failing. It's failing Main Street. It's failing Wall Street. It's failing the rich. It's failing the poor. It's failing the middle class. It's failing people currently residing in the U.S., and it's certainly failing expats like myself. There is nobody other than Joe Biden and his inner circle helped by Bidenomics. Bidenomics, by the way, is effectively shorthand for globalism. Globalism with an even more corrupt bent than prior globalism, like a la Bush or Obama. Somehow it's managed to get even worse. Bidenomics, in my opinion, will falter. It could happen as soon as this next election. You could see Trump reelected, reinstituting some populistic economic policies, although he will face headwind from the Uniparty, which is already set up to screw certain candidates. Like I said, keep an eye on the West Virginia Senate race. There's a reason why Jim Justice was handpicked by Mitch McConnell himself to enter the race. There's a reason for that. If he loses, and if the populist Mooney ends up becoming the candidate, look for the GOP to throw him under the bus to try to keep their own party from winning that seat from Joe Manchin because he's so vulnerable and they don't want to deal with another Republican that's MAGA. Here's the problem. Bidenomics, at least in its current form, has been such a letdown to so many people. The one thing that Biden is hammered on, even by some liberals, is the economy. I can't see it becoming a lasting force. Reaganomics, for better or for worse, and part of it is for worse, it was that neocon, not trickle down, that's a liberal term, but it was a neocon, hey, let's give tax breaks to the corporations to spur on hiring, and to some degree it worked, but really much of that wealth did go to the top. It's not really trickle down. Ironically, it's trickle up more than anything else. Bidenomics, for all of its faults, at least was able to make a stable economy. It was able to provide the needs of the average person. The middle class was not hurting in 1983 the same way that it is now. Prices, inflation, and so forth had been tackled to a much greater degree. Bidenomics doesn't do that. Bidenomics has created sticky inflation, the need to raise rates that could lead to much higher unemployment, and is now leading to a banking crisis, among other things. I do not believe that it will maintain. I think it'll be more like Carter economics. Carter's liberal economics were thrown out when Carter left, by and large, because people perceived it as not working. I see on the horizon a recession, a banking crisis, etc., that will sink Biden's economic legacy. Now, that doesn't necessitate that he doesn't get reelected. But it does necessitate that he loses all possible mandate and his economic system goes the way of the dinosaur, which is at a bare minimum what we need to survive as a nation economically. I do not believe that Bidenomics has overcome Reaganomics. By the way, Reaganomics, what are you talking about? Like Obama never existed? Like his liberal policies were demonstrably that different from Joe Biden's policies? The only difference is Biden spends fucking more. The things he's spending it on, infrastructure bill, okay, shovel ready. Farm aid, which was race-based originally. Okay, I believe we had that under Obama. Restaurant aid, okay, that's lockdown related. And Obama's aid was mostly related to the downturn in the economy as a total because of the Great Recession itself. Different situations, but rather similar sort of feelings as far as how we're going to tackle it. Trumponomics would be much better than Bidenomics. In fact, it's basically like first-term Reagan. Well, it'd be morning in America again. All we have to do is kick the unipartyist bums out, and that includes a significant proportion, by the way, of Republicans as well. And then the final news story here. This is the New York Times being ghoulish. I just wanted to put them on blast, and I did on Twitter itself. This is, it's beyond the pale, what they're posting here. And they are getting called out by a lot of people for it, which is to their credit. I'm not the only one pointing out how fucking ghoulish the New York Times is. Here was their take in regards to the school attack in Serbia the other day. There was a school shooting in Serbia, and 8 people were killed. In fact, I think it's 9 people, actually, one dying of their wounds thereafter. The New York Times. A mass shooting on Wednesday where 8 students and a security guard, okay, so it is 9, were killed at a school in Serbia was a reminder that such attacks are far less common outside the U.S. So, your reply to human misery and the death of a bunch of kids in Serbia is to whine about the United States gun policy, basically. Yeah, that's not ghoulish at all. It's totally rational and totally normal and makes a whole lot of sense and is really newsworthy. No, it's not. You can go through some of the responses. I said, talk about a coffin rider. Take coffin rider, by the way, a good term for someone who attempts to make a political or social point based on human misery, especially when it's only tangentially related to the actual policies in question. The fact is that Serbia has nothing to do with U.S. gun control and the Second Amendment. They're not connected in any meaningful way. But you couldn't help to make it about the United States. Even basically, the New York Times doesn't care if a bunch of Serbians die, which they have been anyway. There's constant partisan infighting in that part of the world. That's perfectly fine. When people kill each other with guns as part of a militia or a militant movement or as soldiers, nobody has dick to say about it. The second that somebody takes their dad's handgun and goes and kills people, it's all of a sudden, even if it's in another continent, all of a sudden it's an issue about U.S. gun control and the Second Amendment. Kevin Houston saying the narrative enters the chat. Todd, bahaha, reach for it, reach for that narrative. Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what it is. It's one of the most ghoulish posts they've ever made. And, you know, it's the New York Times, so that's definitely going some. I'm not surprised, though. They have nothing else to say about it. They have to talk about the shooting, but they're like, well, nobody in the U.S., nobody in our audience is intelligent enough to care about Serbian kids dying. So we'll make it about the U.S. and gun policy. King James IX. I grabbed a copy of your insert shillery here, Orange Man Big Book. It'll be here today. I am going to read it before writing a review. So, clank. Good taste. Yeah, so when you write a review for Orange Man Bad, it helps to sell more copies. A review is worth about 20 sales. A simple rating that doesn't even take you more than 2 seconds is worth about 5 sales. That's the way that Amazon works algorithmically. They don't demote me, by the way. Other than sometimes people try to undercut edited works by releasing a US-only edition that's less pricey. But then I can just undercut them too. The shoe will be on the other foot, bullshit publishers, by the way. I'm going to be doing that in an expedited manner. It will come in a few months. Mopey Hornet, hey Sticks, do you think AI in the future, as they become more complex, will be able to have a soul? Or nothing more than a reflection of humanity in a mirror? Well, if it's capable of making its own decisions, and it can self-replicate and self-maintain, it is effectively life. Doesn't matter if it's organic, organic in quotations, of course. Yeah, it'd be a life form. It would just be one that that humans could easily stymie. I don't think that AI is going to create like a Terminator style, like robot army or something like that, and be able to maintain it. That's not what I claim. I think it would be much more hazardous if AI simply starts influencing human thought patterns in a negative way. The problem is, what is AI being developed by? A bunch of billionaires, a bunch of corporations, and a bunch of governments. The same authoritarian assholes that you don't want to control anything if you have common sense are the ones that are developing these systems. They are openly proclaiming that they're tinkering with that machine learning in order to make it woke, in order to make it acceptable to societal conventional standards. Societies have to be able to evolve in order to adapt to their surroundings, or they die. They're trying to stagnate the way in which society functions. That's basically what it is. That's, by the way, it's the same thing as progressivism. Progressivism is the idea of stagnating society in the same sort of Orwellian authoritarian bent as past tyrannical movements and lock it there permanently, constantly shifting around the goalposts, but the basic premise of authoritarianism remains the same. It's the same thing. Anyway, I think I'm going to go offline now. I've enjoyed this, but I am going to keep it short. I just don't have quite as much energy today. Also, I don't think I drank my other energy drink. I think there's still some left in it, so that might be the culprit. I've got to make tacos, and I will, maybe I'll start indexing ideas for the next Orange Man Big, since this one, I don't know, it's sold about 400 copies, I think, already, so that's pretty good. For a fairly short, self-titled work for a niche audience, selling hundreds of copies is pretty good. It's definitely worth the time that I put into the booklet. So yeah, maybe I'll do part 2. That's about all. Peace out.